So it's about 7 o'clock. I was in bed around 1 in the afternoon, and up around 6. Um, those are estimates. You can maybe even just say I had a nap. But I'm feeling fairly awake. I'm actually just going to go ahead and reconstruct this machine from scratch, hopefully one more time. I just have to put aside some files that I had modified and stuff. The check of these tracks through the MP3 player was very enlightening. It made me really realize what I was really dealing with here, and what it is that I'm focusing on. It's not quite what I thought, and it's really important that I figured that out. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of filing. I'm gonna reinstall this again. I won't go through it again because I did last time. And now that I realize what's actually happening, hopefully I will actually have minimal troubleshooting to do when it comes back up. And I'll be back at this shortly. It's about 9:30, and I actually got absolutely nothing done at all since my last take here. Um, I'm watching the swearing in of the new Canadian Prime Minister being live streamed on our state-run media network, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I guess it's kind of like PBS, except it's not run by public donations. It's run naturally by the state itself. Um, if you're familiar with the BBC, that's a better model for the CBC. So yeah, I really just spent the better part of the last 12 hours, or maybe even 15 hours, mostly just rambling on the internet, looking for information about the cabinet that's coming up, debating with a few people, this sort of thing that I tend to do when political events occur. Um, I don't even know if this is legal, but I'm gonna turn it off when you get a shot of sexy boy Justin Trudeau there. I grew up in Ottawa, but I don't recognize this area. I presume it's up on the other side of the Rideau. It's one of the few areas of Ottawa I don't know well. It's kind of the old money. Well, there's a few old money areas of Ottawa, but this is kind of the out of the way old money area. Nobody goes up near Rockcliffe Park or Sussex unless you've got something to do there. And chances are you don't have anything to do there. I may have bicycled through here a few times, but that's about the only reason I'd be up that way. As you can see, it appears to be a public event here. I suppose this looks fairly humble, actually. I don't think that's an accident. I think it's kind of a public relations thing. I believe the General Convention is for the Prime Minister to show up with his, or, well, it was a her once, but not for very long. But his or her cabinet in a limousine. My understanding is that there was a big issue made of this being done on a bus to make it seem less extravagant. He's been spending a good 5 minutes at least taking camera shots of his kids. I can't think that's an accident. It's no doubt designed that way. I'm not sure who that woman is. I think that might be Pierre Trudeau's daughter. That's Pierre Trudeau's mother. Sorry, that's Justin Trudeau's mother and Pierre Trudeau's ex-wife. Kind of a famous personality in Canada on her own. As you can see, they're really milking this. Those are his campaign managers. You know you're a nerd when you know who the campaign managers are. That's the Prime Minister and his wife. Sorry, ladies. And I think I recognize a few of those people as cabinet ministers as well. Yeah. Okay, I believe that's Catherine McKenna. She is a lawyer from Ottawa. I think that's Bill Bourneau, who is a business person from Toronto. Alright. That's Melanie Jolie. She's another lawyer from Montreal, although she's going to be probably more of an arts capacity. I believe that's Mary Ann Milichuk, who is a bureaucrat from Manitoba. I believe that's Dominic LeBlanc. He's from New Brunswick. That is Carolyn Bennett. She got in. That was a question mark. If that's a wheelchair, then it's probably Kent Healer. I'm just hoping I'll get FDR quotes for the next 10 years. That's their white hair. It's Stéphane Dion. He was the leader of this party a little while back. Important MP. Old man there, it's Ralph Goodale, another important MP. I think that's John McCallum. I can't see as that well. It's nice to see he made it too. He's an old banker. Only in Canada is it nice to see a banker. He's also a very socially liberal person. That's a good tone issue. I gotta say, there's more of these people that I don't recognize than I'd like to see. But there's enough that I do that it's okay. That's a former Prime Minister, old man Jean Chrétien. I believe that's one of the old Governor Generals, Adrian Clarkson. That's another old Governor General, Michel Jean. Governor General in Canada, it's kind of a relic of the past that acts as a placeholder for signatures in certain circumstances. Let's not be silly and say things like the Governor General is the head of state or the Queen's representative, because it's just a bunch of nonsense, right?
La procession sera menée par Dylan Kicknosway, un jeune homme de 12 ans, membre de la nation Cree Potawatomi.
I don't know how expected that is. Oh wait, okay. That's probably fairly expected. Didn't realize. I think that was a con zone or what, but that happens all the time in Canada, actually. And maybe it should happen more often in the United States.
I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors. So help me God. I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do solemnly and sincerely swear
To the
that I
Queen's
shall be a
heirs.
true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, as a member of Her Majesty's Privy Council.
Maybe not the best time to laugh at, she does.
I will in all things to be true.
Samantha Metcalf and Kaylin de Grandpré, 11-year-old Inuit throat singers from the Ottawa Inuit Children's Centre, will now come forward to share their music with us. Samantha Metcalf et Kaylin de Grandpré, des jeunes filles de 11 ans, chanteuses de gorge du Centre des enfants inuits d'Ottawa, vont maintenant nous faire découvrir leur talent.
The Inuit are an indigenous group in Canada that live in the far north. Like, way up there in the Arctic.
With the Governor-General's approval, we will now proceed with the swearing-in of the 29th Canadian Ministry. Maintenant que le gouverneur général a signifié son approbation, nous procéderons à l'assermentation du 29e Conseil des ministres canadiens. The minister who is assuming additional responsibilities for intergovernmental affairs and for youth will please come forward to be sworn to office. Le ministre qui assume des responsabilités supplémentaires pour les affaires intergouvernementales ainsi que pour la jeunesse est prié de s'avancer pour prêter le serment d'office. Le très honorable Justin P.J. Trudeau, the Right Honorable Justin P.J. Trudeau.
Le ministre des Affaires intergouvernementales,
I think this is unusual,
de la jeunesse.
or at least it's unusual in the modern era. We don't usually have the Prime Minister take on a cabinet position.
P.J. Trudeau.
The ministers designate will please come forward to be sworn in. Les ministres désignés sont priés de s'avancer pour prêter serment. The Honorable Ralph Goodale, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness. L'Honorable Ralph Goodale, Ministre de la Sécurité publique et de la Protection civile.
Ralph Goodale is an experienced minister. Everybody knew he would get a
I,
position.
Ralph Goodale, do solemnly and sincerely promise
Maybe
and
this
swear
one's a little
I
bit
will truly and faithfully and to the best of my
different.
skill and knowledge execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness.
He's a good,
So help me
fair-minded
God.
guy. Yeah, I don't think I'll have.
Moi, Ralph Goodale, je promets et jure
I think there's
solennement
no
et
chance he's gonna
sincèrement
turn into a
que
tyrant,
de
anyways.
ma compétence et de ma connaissance,
And that's really
j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les
a serious
pouvoirs
concern.
et je
So,
m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité
well, when
de
you're a far
ministre
left liberal like me, you're not really so concerned about getting tough on crime.
ainsi Dieu
You're
me
more
soit.
concerned about reducing the powers, the criminal powers of government.
The Honorable Carolyn Bennett, Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs. L'Honorable Carolyn Bennett, Ministre des Affaires autochtones et du Nord.
That's a decent call.
I, Carolyn Bennett, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare
that I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trusts reposed in me
I would
as Minister of Indigenous
think
and Northern Affairs.
it would make more sense to put an Indigenous person
Moi, Carolyn Bennett, je
as
promets et
the
déclare solennellement et
Minister of
sincèrement qu'au
Indigenous
mieux
Affairs.
de ma compétence et ma connaissance,
But
j'exercerai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je
in fact, the
m'acquitterai
truth is that's never
des
happened.
responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées
Maybe it'll
en
happen
qualité de ministre des
throughout
Affaires
the course of
autochtones
this
et du Nord.
process here. But
Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, l'Honorable Lawrence Macaulay, ministre de l'Agriculture et de l'Agroalimentaire.
that's actually
I, Lawrence
entirely
Macaulay,
reasonable.
do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skills and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me.
He's
as
from a
Minister
small
of
island,
Agriculture and Agri-Food. So help me
called
God.
Prince Edward Island. Actually, it's a relatively large island as far as islands are concerned, but it's a small area. It's the smallest province that meets his requirement to ensure that there's a representative from each province. And as you can see, he's a little bit older. He's actually been an MP for a long time. Agriculture is not exactly the most complex file. That's an entirely reasonable choice.
Ms. Jody Wilson-Raybould, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. Madame Jody Wilson-Raybould, ministre de la Justice et procureur général du Canada.
See, I would have expected this to be the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
I, Jody
She's
Wilson-Raybould, do
um,
declare that
a
I will
chief
be
in
faithful
British
and bear
Columbia, I
true
believe.
allegiance to Her Majesty
But
Queen
she's also
Elizabeth
worked as a
II,
Crown Prosecutor,
Queen of
so she
Canada,
has
her heirs and
a
successors.
background
I, Jody
in this
Wilson-Raybould,
file
do
as well.
solemnly and sincerely declare that I shall be true
I don't really
and
know enough
faithful
about her to
servant
make
to Her Majesty
a call on
Queen Elizabeth
whether
II,
it's
as
a good
member
choice
of
or not.
Her Majesty's Privy
It's certainly a
Council for
senior
Canada.
position.
I will in all things
L'Honorable Stéphane Dion, ministre des Affaires étrangères. The Honorable Stéphane Dion, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Stefano is arguably the most important MP
Moi, Stéphane
in the
Dion,
House besides the
promets
Prime
et
Minister
déclare
himself.
solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence
As
et
you
de
can
ma
see, he's a bit of a
connaissance,
dork.
j'exécuterai
It didn't
loyalement
help him
et
when he tried to
fidèlement
run for Prime
les
Minister.
pouvoirs et je
I
m'acquitterai des
love the guy.
responsabilités
I
qui
think
m'ont été
he's.
confiées en qualité de ministre des Affaires
I really like his
étrangères.
dorky qualities, and that's the thing. You love him or you hate him, right?
I, Stéphane
Um,
Dion, do solemnly
Minister of
and
Foreign Affairs is,
sincerely
of course, an
promise
important
and
position.
declare that I will
Um,
truly and
He's always done
faithfully
everything he's done
and
previously
to the best
well.
of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust
He'll do that well.
reposed in me.
Of course, it's Dion's pendant. See, that's. This is why I love the guy.
Ms. Judy M. Foote, Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Madame Judy M. Foote, Ministre des Services Publics et de l'Approvisionnement.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is another veteran cabinet minister. I believe she was actually the leader of the Liberal Party in Newfoundland, which is that giant island on the northeast of Canada.
The Honorable John McCallum, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. L'Honorable John McCallum, Ministre de l'Immigration, des
Okay,
Réfugiés
so-
et de la Citoyenneté.
During the election, he promised to settle 25,000 Syrian refugees within 2 months.
John McCallum, je promets et jure
That's a tough job.
solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma
and,
compétence et de ma connaissance,
This is a
j'exécuterai
older,
loyalement et
capable
fidèlement les
minister.
pouvoirs
I
et
mentioned
je
before that he was an
m'acquitterai
old
des responsabilités
old
qui m'ont
banker.
été
Um,
confiées en
I would have
qualité
expected him to
de
take more of a
ministre
financial
de
position,
l'immigration, des
and I'm sure that he will
réfugiés
eventually
et de
be
la
shuffled into one.
citoyenneté. Ainsi Dieu me soit en
But
aide.
what Trudeau was saying with this is that
I, John McCallum,
he's serious
do solemnly
about
and
the
sincerely
refugee
promise and
resettlement,
swear
and
that I will truly and faithfully,
wants to
and
ensure
the
that,
best of my skill and knowledge, execute
somebody
the
that's
powers and
capable
trusts
of doing that gets it done.
reposed in me as Minister
Um,
of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship.
That,
So
that
help me God.
that's not a.
Thank you very much.
Often that would be a softball choice. In this particular context, that actually shows a lot of confidence.
Ms. Chrystia Freeland, Minister of International Trade. Madame Chrystia Freeland, Ministre du Commerce International.
Okay, this was the most obvious out of all of them. Christian Freeland is an author and journalist.
I, Chrystia Freeland, do swear that I will be faithful.
She's written
and
books
bear
on
true allegiance
economics
to Her Majesty
and foreign
Queen
policy.
Elizabeth II, Queen
Um,
of Canada,
May have seen her on Bill Maher a few times.
So help me God. I, Chrystia Freeland, do solemnly and
She's a bit of a
sincerely
hawk
swear that I shall be a true
on
and
foreign
faithful
policy.
servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth
On
II,
international
as a
trade,
member of Her Majesty's
she's
Privy
a
Council for
liberal in
Canada.
the true sense of it.
I will, in all
Um,
things to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully.
She's very smart.
honestly, and
She understands
truly
what's going
declare
on.
my mind and
In
my
these
opinions.
areas, she
I
speaks
shall keep
multiple
secret
languages.
all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated
She's
of
almost
in
uniquely
council.
positioned
Generally,
for this
in all
position.
things, I shall do as a faithful and true servant.
Ideologically,
ought to
though,
do
like I say,
for Her
she's a
Majesty.
liberal. You know,
So
she'll
help me
support free trade and all those other sorts of things.
The Honorable Scott Bryson, President of the Treasury Board. L'Honorable Scott Bryson, Président du Conseil du Trésor.
That's a little bit of a surprise. Most people thought Scott Bryson would end up as the finance minister. This is somewhat of a demotion.
I, Scott Bryson,
Um,
do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best
I
of my
find Scott
skill and
Bryson a little
knowledge,
sketchy.
execute the
I don't really
powers
trust
and
him.
trusts reposed in me as
He's
President
jumped
of the
back and
Treasury
forth
Board.
from a few different parties.
Moi, Scott Bryson, je promets
He
et
seems to
j'espère
have
solennellement
connections
et
to
sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et de ma
shady
connaissance,
global
j'exécuterai
organizations like the
loyalement
Trilateral
et
Commission.
fidèlement les pouvoirs
Um,
et je m'acquitterai
there's
des
just-
responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en
He strikes me
qualité
as the kind of person that would jump from one party to the next in order to chase a cabinet position. And I think maybe that's the reason he didn't get the more senior post like a lot of people suggested. I'll admit that that thought crossed my mind. I suspect that there may have been some shenanigans going on with Scott Bryson and the NDP through this election, in the sense that he may have been planning on jumping. I was quiet in making my predictions about that. Because I sort of assumed that nobody realized it, but maybe it's a little bit more open than I thought.
Ms.
Or maybe
Jane
he'll get
Philpott,
shuffled in soon.
Minister of Health. Madame Jane Philpott, Ministre de la Santé.
See, I'm uncomfortable with this.
I, Jane Philpott, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth
This
II,
is a person with
Queen of
no
Canada, her
meaningful
heirs and
legislative
successors.
or
So help
government
me God.
experience.
I, Jane Philpott, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
She
as
did
a
some
member of
activist
Her
work in
Majesty's
Africa
Privy
or
Council for
something.
Canada. I will, in all things, to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council faithfully, honestly,
And
truly
the
declare
health
my mind
ministry
and my
is,
opinion. I shall keep secret all matters
one that should
committed and
be
revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly
treated with the
of
utmost
in
importance.
council. Generally, in all things, I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for Her Majesty.
I would have
So help
liked
me
to
God.
see
I, Jane Philpott, do solemnly
a
and
more
sincerely
established,
promise and swear that I will truly and
minister
faithfully, and to the best of my skill and
with
knowledge, execute the powers and trusts
with a
reposed in
discernible
me
track record.
as Minister
Let's
of
put it that
Health.
way.
So help me God.
I haven't the slightest idea what this woman stands for, or what she might do, because she's never held office really before.
L'Honorable Dominique Leblanc, Leader du gouvernement à la Chambre des communes. The Honorable Dominique Leblanc, Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
that I
No, the
will
actual truth
truly
is I
and
don't think that
faithfully,
Dominic LeBlanc has
and
any
to the best of my
really
skill and
serious
knowledge,
legislative experience
execute
either.
the powers and trusts reposed
I was
in
just
me
trying to think if
as
that was
Leader
a
of
good
the
fit or
Government
not, and
in the House
I
of
really
Commons.
am kind of coming up with a blank. I don't know. It's a tactical position. But they've got a big majority, so it's not exactly like there's much tactical work required here. I think that basically that's a patronage position in this context. I think that they're kind of friends from childhood, sort of thing. So that's the Prime Minister giving his
Madame
old buddy
Marie-Claude
a
Bibeau,
plum spot.
Ministre du Développement International et de la Francophonie. Ms. Marie-Claude Bibeau, Minister of International Development and la Francophonie.
Again, I have no idea who this is, and I don't really have a comment. What I will say is that the international development file is, I don't want to say it's less important than the health file, but it's something that's done largely by the bureaucrats.
The Honorable Navdeep Singh Bains, Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development. L'Honorable Navdeep Singh Bains, Ministre de l'Innovation, des Sciences et du Développement économique.
He was an important part of Trudeau's
Science and Economic Development.
team.
Madame Mélanie Joly, Ministre du Patrimoine canadien. Ms. Mélanie Joly, Minister of Canadian Heritage.
This is another obvious choice. She was an important person in the background. And she's known for being very involved in bourgeois art projects in Montreal. So she can run their bourgeois art projects from Ottawa, and it's very, very rational.
Hi, I, Mélanie Joly, do declare that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors.
The hairs again.
I, Mélanie Joly, do solemnly and
C'est
sincerely
un français
declare
problème.
that I shall be a true
Mais c'est
and
beaucoup de mots en
resolved
français
and
avec le...
faithfully. I, Mélanie Joly, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you.
See, now, she said heritage, but she said hairs. See, now, if you would have got that the other way around, it said heirs and heritage, then that would have been correct.
Mr. William Francis Morneau, Minister of Finance. Monsieur William Francis Morneau, Ministre des Finances.
See, that's kind of surprising as well.
I, William Francis Morneau, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her
What that
Majesty
suggests
Queen
is that
Elizabeth, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors.
he has
So help me
some
God.
contacts
I,
in the party
William Francis
that
Morneau,
are a bit stronger than anybody
solemnly and
realized.
sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to Her Majesty
Nobody
Queen Elizabeth II,
gets
as a member
finance
of Her
minister
Majesty's Privy Council for Canada.
on
I will,
the first
in all
term
things
they're
to be
elected.
treated,
That's
debated,
unheard
and
of.
resolved in Privy Council,
Unless, of course, they have
faithfully,
some
honestly, and
previous
truly
finance minister
declare my
experience.
mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret
And the
all
truth is that
matters
Trudeau has
that
quite a
will be
bit of
revealed to
people
me in this
that
capacity,
he could
or
plug
that
in
shall
for
be
that
secretly
purpose.
treated of in council. Generally, in all
It's hard to
things
explain
I shall
this
do
without
as a faithful and true servant
those
ought to do for Her
networks
Majesty.
in the background,
So help me God.
whatever you want to call them.
Moi, William Francis Morneau, je jure fidélité
Old
et
gender
sincère
clubs
allégeance
or
à Sa Majesté la Reine Elizabeth II,
maybe even a
Reine du
secret
Canada,
society of
à
some
ses
sort.
héritiers et successeurs. Ainsi Dieu me soit en aide.
That's how this
Moi,
happens.
William Francis
It,
Morneau,
it
je
doesn't
jure
just happen.
solennellement et sincèrement que j'agirai en fidèle et loyal serviteur de Sa Majesté la Reine Elizabeth
I think the closest thing to something like that in Canada that exists is an organization called the Power Corporation. I would suspect that Balmorno here has something to do with the Power Corp, and that's what's happened here. But note that means that Power Corp overpowered the Trilateral Commission. Our local Canadian
William Francis Morneau, do solemnly
oligarchs
and sincerely promise and
overpower
swear
the
that I will
Rockefeller
truly
clique.
and faithfully and to
Madame Diane Le Boutillier, Ministre du Revenu National. Ms. Diane Le Boutillier, Minister of National Revenue.
Again, I don't know anything about this person. She runs the Canadian version of the IRS now, the CRA. That's again going to be a mostly cosmetic position. Again, I don't know anything about her, but that's a position that's hard to screw up. Batteries went out a second time. This thing is not good on batteries. Okay, so I miss this guy. He's MP from Quebec. They gave him a cabinet, something to do with families. Truth is, I have no idea what that does. I have no idea about him either. So, I don't know who this guy is, and I don't know what the ministry he was just given does. Let's hope the civil service is in charge of this.
Ms. Catherine McKenna, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Madame Catherine McKenna, Ministre de l'Environnement et du Changement Climatique.
This is an interesting choice.
To Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
I was under the impression that Catherine McKenna had more of a
her
background
heirs
in
and successors. I, Catherine
human
McKenna,
rights
do
law
solemnly and sincerely
and
declare that I shall be
international
a true and faithful
conditions.
servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as a member of Her Majesty's Privy Council
I
for Canada.
suppose
I will,
that
in
there
all
is
things, be
a
treated, debated,
rational
and
connection
resolved
on
in
that
Privy
and
Council, faithfully,
climate change
honestly,
issues.
and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed
It wouldn't be
and
the
revealed
first,
to me in this
wouldn't be the most
capacity,
obvious
or
position
shall be
for
secretly
that
treated of in council.
portfolio.
Generally, in all things I
But
shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for Her
we'll find out how
Majesty.
that works out.
To Marc Garneau, Ministre des Transports. Mr. Marc Garneau, Minister of Transport.
One thing I will say about Marc Garneau is that he's not a psychopath. He will speak his mind. He will be an independent voice. That's a positive, at least. Even if I'm uncomfortable with the kind of pandering underlying putting an astronaut in cabinet, I can at least respect that he has his own mind, and he will use it.
Ms. Marianne Mahaichuk, Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Labor. Madame Marianne Mahaichuk, Ministre de l'Emploi, du Développement de la Main-d'œuvre et du Travail.
That's a different file. On the one hand, this is your kind of token Manitoba MP.
I, Marianne Mahaichuk, do declare I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her
It's a
Majesty
necessity.
Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada.
I agree she was the best of the bunch.
I, Marianne
I think we got
Mahaichuk, do
7
solemnly
MPs
and
from
sincerely
Manitoba
declare
this
that
time.
I shall be true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth
A couple of
II
younger ones that
as a
looked pretty
member
good,
of
but
Her Majesty's
as
Privy
far as somebody that you can
Council
actually
for
plug in the
Canada.
cabinet,
I
she
will,
looks like
in
your
all
best bet.
things to be treated,
That was
debated,
obvious.
resolved in Privy Council,
Um,
faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters
This
committed
seems
and revealed
this seems to be a new ministry. It seems to be a number of these are new ministries.
secretly treated
Of
in council.
It's kind of all the labour-y things put together.
As a faithful
I think the reason that they gave her that is because she is a former NDP member, and she is probably, honestly, the closest thing that the Liberals have right now to a decent Labour candidate.
Mr. James Gordon Carr, Minister of Natural Resources. Monsieur James Gordon Carr, Ministre des Ressources Naturelles.
I strongly dislike this.
I, James Gordon Carr, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true
The Minister of
allegiance
Natural
to Her
Resources
Majesty
is the
Queen
person
Elizabeth
that's
II,
really in charge of the environmental
heirs
concerns.
and successors.
Even if they gave the
I, James Gordon
climate
Carr,
change title to Catherine
solemnly
McKenna.
and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and
This guy is a
faithful servant
business
of Her Majesty
leader.
Queen Elizabeth II,
He
member
represents
of
the
Her
bad guys.
Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will in all things to be treated, debated, and resolved.
That's a
in the Privy
very
Council
bad
faithfully
sign.
and honestly, declare my mind and my opinion.
I don't think anybody really ever expected
All
this
matters
government to
submitted
be
or
really
revealed to
proactive
me
on
in this
climate,
capacity, where that shall be secretly
but this
treated
sends
of
the
and
message that
Generally,
it's
in all
business as
things,
usual.
I shall
Ms. Myriam Monsef, Minister of Democratic Institutions. Madame Myriam Monsef, Ministre des Institutions Démocratiques.
See, this is what I think a lot of feminists did not want to see. They took somebody with no qualifications whatsoever, and they gave her a cabinet position that is pulled out of someone's rear end. There is no such thing as a cabinet for democratic renewal, or a minister for democracy. That's not something that, there's no ministry for that. It's just made up, right? They have plenty of capable female ministers. They could plug into real ministries. They didn't have to do this. And it's, I think, very poor form that they would.
Mr. Kent Hare, Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defense.
See, I can't make any sense of that either.
Queen Elizabeth, Queen of Canada,
We need an MP
her
from
heirs and
Alberta. That's
successors,
the,
so help me God.
you know, it's the quota system.
Do
There has to be at least one from every
solemnly
province.
sincerely swear that I shall
Um,
be a true and faithful servant
It's an unfortunate
to Her
thing
Majesty
because sometimes
Queen
you have to,
Elizabeth II,
you know,
as a member
dole
of
this
Her
out like this.
Majesty's Privy Council
Um,
for Canada. I will in all
I don't
things
really see anything in this person's
faithfully
resume
and resolved
that's
in
particularly
Privy
impressive,
Council,
maybe besides the
honestly,
FDR
truly
impersonation.
declare my mind
Um,
and my opinion.
You know, good for Kent. I'm trying to say this in a way that it isn't perceived as insensitive.
I,
He certainly fought a number of battles to get to the position he's at.
truly and faithfully,
I don't think he's anywhere close to being qualified to this for this at all, but hopefully he proves me wrong there.
reposed in
If you're curious about the backstory with him, he was shot. I don't remember the exact context of it, but this is the result of gun violence. He's not born with a condition of any sort. He was just unfortunately a victim of violence.
Ms. Carla Qualtrough, Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities. Madame Carla Qualtrough, Ministre des Sports et des Personnes Handicapées.
This lady is visually impaired, or in English, blind. She's also a para-Olympian, and has sat on the board of many sports organizations. So this is a very rational decision. Lots of experience there, and I'm sure she'll do a great job.
I will in all things to be treated,
See, she couldn't see that.
faithfully, honestly, and truly.
I'm sure she'll have to.
in my opinion.
Actually, how is she?
True servant
Oh, it's Braille. It must be Braille.
Mr. Harjit Singh Sajan, Minister of National Defense.
that
That's
I
gonna
will be
piss some people
faithful
off.
and bear true allegiance to Her
Um,
Majesty Queen Elizabeth II,
I
Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors.
I don't know
I,
very
Harvey
much about
St.
this
Sergeant,
person. I know that
solemnly and
he
sincerely
was a
declare
veteran.
that I shall be a true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen
He
Elizabeth II,
served in
and a member of Her
I think
Majesty's Privy
Afghanistan.
Council for
I can't
Canada.
remember.
I will, in
Um,
all things, to be treated, debated,
I would
and
rather
resolved in
see
Privy Council,
an
faithfully,
accountant that
honestly,
wants to
and
slash
truly declare
funding,
my mind and my
or a
opinions.
peacenik
I shall keep
that wants to
secret all
change the
matters
direction,
committed and revealed to me in this capacity,
than
or that shall
a
be secretly treated of in
veteran
council.
that is
Generally,
a minority to
in
piss
all
off
things I shall
conservatives.
do as a faithful
Um,
and true servant,
but
not to do for Her Majesty.
I gotta give this credit.
I, Harvey
This
St.
is
solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the
It's
best of my
ballsy,
skill and knowledge,
but it's
execute
ballsy
the
in a
power
way
and
that's
trust
designed
reposed in me
to
as Minister of National Defense.
poke certain people in the eye in ways that feels kind of good. So, that might not be the direction I want to take that ministry in. I don't know. I really don't know a lot about this guy. He might surprise me. But I'll admit I like the idea of putting a Sikh person of color in charge of the Ministry of Defense. That's going to upset lots of conservatives, and that makes me smile.
Ms. Kirsty Duncan, Minister of Science. Madame Kirsty Duncan, Ministre des Sciences.
See, I think that's also, they had her on the international development file. Science makes more sense for her. She was actually on the IPCC panel. One of the, like not as a politician, but as a scientist. She has a background in some kind of biology, or some kind of geography. Super smart woman. She knows a lot about science. It's a good pick.
Mr. Amarjeet Sohi, Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
I really don't think that Alberta needed 2 MPs. I think that that's pandering. I disapprove of that quite strongly. I don't know a lot about this individual either.
Ms. Patricia A. Haidu, Minister of Status of Women. Madame Patricia A. Haidu, Ministre de la Condition Féminine.
Because she's from Northern Ontario. I don't see any of the ministers from Northern Ontario being particularly great, but you have to do something up there. Her background is in running a homeless shelter. It's noble. I'd almost tell her to go back to work in the homeless shelter. You do more good to society there. But the status of woman is also. How can I put this? It's a file that requires a little bit of creativity, or a file that is where creativity is perhaps more important than experience. What's better is if you have both, but it's not the kind of role where you learn things and apply them. It's more the kind of role where you develop tactics and implement them. Or you do nothing at all and collect a check. We'll see which one of those things happens. Again, I know very little of this woman, and hard for me to make a decision as to how she'll approach that.
Mr. Hunter Tutu, Minister of Fisheries, Oceans, and the Canadian Coast Guard. Monsieur Hunter Tutu, Ministre des Pêches, des Océans et de la Garde côtière canadienne.
So, he's from the northern region of Nunavut, which is a semi-autonomous, Indigenous Inuit region in Canada.
Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
A lot of people put him in cabinet. He does have some experience. Um, I would have probably given him more of a role related to the north. There's only a few people up there, kind of thing. It's very sparsely populated. So there's only a few MPs coming down. Fisheries is another ministry where it's mostly civil service run. A lot of it is actually about implementing judicial rulings. And, you know, implementing the recommendations of science conducted through arm's length organizations, those kinds of things.
Ms. Bardish Chagger, Minister of Small Business and Tourism. Madame Bardish Chagger, Ministre de la Petite Entreprise et du Tourisme.
I have no idea who that is. But this is another softball ministry.
I, Bardish Chagger, do declare that I will be faithful and bear true
She can't screw
allegiance
that
to Her
up.
Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen
At
of
least it's a
Canada,
real ministry,
for
though.
heirs and successors.
Overall,
L'assermentation du ministre.
I'm happy with about 90% of it. There's a few that I think are just pointless. And the only one I really actively don't like is Jim Carr as the Minister of Natural Resources. I would have preferred to see that taken over by somebody that was less business oriented and more environmental and social justice oriented. If I only disagree with one of his cabinet positions in his next shuffle, that'll be impressive. So, I didn't count. I think rumor was it was 28. 27 to 20 is not bad. It's actually remarkably good. Even if I give him a pass on the couple that I think are just waste of time photo op bullshit. We'll see how they work out, but I really have very little to actively complain about. So it's a little after 2, and it is ridiculously nice out here in Windsor. Normally at this time of year we at least get frost overnight, and nobody would be surprised if we were getting some snow. It's actually 27 degrees with the humidex. There's humidex in Windsor in November. It's unheard of. It's ridiculous. So I'm gonna go out and do some groceries, other things of this sort. I'm gonna take this with me, but I don't think I'm gonna take any shots unless something interesting comes up. I didn't even get a start on the restart. You know, like I say, I was mostly focused on the cabinet issue, and I'll be back in a little bit. I just want to point out that the reason I've been off camera for a little bit is because I managed to rip a hole in my face, and I was a little bit self-conscious about it. The picking at the face thing, it's to get an idea of it. I've actually managed to like sprain my finger from it. Like, that's the extent of it. I get like really obsessive about it, and you know, like for a while it was with tweezers. I actually had to like destroy the tweezers, but it didn't help. I just started using my fingers instead. So I need to find a way to get out of that kind of a mess. But for right now, it's groceries. I've got a few ideas about picking some stuff up, but it really depends on a couple circumstances. I'm about to enjoy the next day. So I'm walking away from the first grocery store to check the first blog to get a reference from that, and walking to the second store. I'm gonna. I can't. Okay, I thought I maybe had this backwards. All I'm seeing is a reflection of myself. But I'm gonna get the shot in that I missed on the first one. Walking through this relatively cozy little area in Windsor here. It's the ODSP office. I go in there from time to time, as infrequently as possible, preferably. I know you can't see the temperature, but maybe you can get the idea from the sun. Like it's sweltering out. Like it feels like 30 degrees. Like an August day in November. Not supposed to happen, but I have a hard time complaining about it. It's this kind of ethical problem living in Canada with the whole climate change thing. It's just this cognitive dissonance in understanding, like what these changes are going to do to certain areas of the world, islands sinking and droughts and floods and desertification and everything else, large areas of the world becoming uninhabitable. But up here in the northern latitudes, it's hard to see a downside to it, Longer growing seasons, longer summers. I mean, I could get used to 30-degree days in November, So see, it's a nasty twist of fate because, as it so happens to be, we're also largely in control of it. We've got all this dirty oil. It's putting the thief in charge of the candy jar. The flip side of that is that the other country that is most likely to benefit is Russia. And they've got just tons of the stuff too, so it's largely doesn't matter who we end up electing so long as those realities are in place. There's really no argument it is beneficial to this country. Just about everybody, well, the ski resorts might not like it, but just about everybody else comes out ahead. So it's really acting against self-interest. It's really asking, and not just an entire country, but two entire countries, if you include Russia in it, to act against their own interests, to save the world. And yeah, you can throw around UN reports about refugees, I'm a little skeptical about this Syrian crisis being due to climate change. I think it's pretty obvious that, the American-Saudi collusion of lunatics to knock out a Russian proxy, it's not something that really requires a more complicated explanation than that, It's clear as day, but we can at least see the possible consequences, But getting a whole bunch of people, like I say, two entire nations, 200 million people, more than that if you include the northern states, to act against beneficial climate change. it's tactically very hard. Even if you get the right rhetoric, I mean, we kept electing governments that were disinterested or downright opposed to doing anything. You know, the couple of governments we have had in that have tried to switch something just got nailed on it. You know, if the Conservative opposition in Ontario wasn't so incompetent, the green energy plan probably would have knocked the government out of power. So, if I know, but it's of course I know better than to conclude it's warm out, therefore climate change, but this is freak occurrence. It just doesn't happen. 30-degree days in November in Canada, it just doesn't happen. You know, and if you ask meteorologists, they'll tell you that it doesn't really align with the El Nino pattern either, so. I'm actually coming back up on this little strip, which I took before, so I'm gonna turn this off. But yeah, it's beautiful out, and I don't really particularly want to complain about it. So I'm coming back from store number 2, which was that way, but I'm taking the kind of back way around past the cemetery. I'm gonna go through the kind of Windsor's a small town. It doesn't really have a trendy district, but it's, I guess, closest thing to it. Italian, Little Italy, whatever you want to call it. Because I don't want to. Well, I want to go to the bread store before it closes. On top of that, I've got ice cream in my bag, and I kind of want to get it home. So that means heading up this way. This is Ottawa Street, which bothers me, coming here from Ottawa. Up that way is like a business district. Again, that's, like I say, the trendy district is kind of that way. But I'm going up to the street above it, which is more the strictly Italian neighborhood part of it. This walk, so I take this walk very early in the morning sometimes, and it can be a little unsettling. Partly because I have this absurd fear of cougars specifically, and I mean like the cats. It's not particularly well grounded here. This is in the historical range of mountain lions, but they've been extinct here, or at least thought to be extinct here, for quite some time. There are sightings, not right in the city, but out a little bit. There have been for years. My understanding is that the general scientific perspective is that they are around. They're just in small numbers. It's not clear if there were remnant populations from the 19th century, or if they were introduced here as pets. Now, pets. What kind of dumbass has a pet cougar? But you know, it happens. I have this sort of morbid fantasy of them kind of just like digging up graves. And hey, you know, they're not toucans, but they follow their nose, right? So it would bring them to a place like this. Sure. A lot easier than running a deer down anyways. So it's, you know, I mean, I guess a lot of people have issues with cemeteries. It's not a weird thing, but it's maybe a little unusual to be concerned about them in the context of wild animals rather than, you know, bullshit paranormal nonsense. But that's how it is. Especially early in the morning. I'll come walking through here at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's that time of the day where predators are around looking for something to eat. So there have been coyotes spotted here in Windsor, like most cities in the 1,000-mile radius of here. They're coy wolves, you know, the hybrid coyote wolf came out of Algonquin Park a few years ago. It's a consequence of the declining wolf population and the expanding coyote population. But, I mean, if I was going to run into something, it would be far more likely I'd run into a coy wolf than a cougar, but it doesn't change it. You know, I think it's really, it's a phobia. I've been maybe having a little bit of difficulty coming to terms with it because I consider myself to be an unusually rational person, but I do have this phobia. It comes up all over the place. Even if I'm just like outside having a smoke or like, what is that? I'm talking about it, I see something in front of me, I can't really see what it is. Appears to be a bush, you see? But that's the thing, is I see them everywhere. I see cougars everywhere. It's, I don't know how do you deal with that? Is there a hormone for cougar suppressor? I somehow doubt that. Go to therapy and have somebody, you know, repeat slowly. Repeat slowly after me, Jay. There are no cougars in Windsor. There are no cougars in Windsor. It's just something you gotta get over, I guess, huh? This is, it's a weird street. It reminds me of, for some reason that street reminds me, it's very American feeling to me. I don't know. It's got that, like, sitcom feel when you walk down to it, because all the houses are, like, kind of like split high-rises. But yeah, I guess I'm through the cemetery there. Next road is that district, and I'm actually pretty close to home, so like I say, I wanted to get to the bread store. It's not just a bread store, I also buy salami there. It's like an Italian bacon deli shop. Get some proper bread, make sure I get it cut this time. But they're not open late, so I gotta get there first. Then I'm actually, because I'm not far from home and I have ice cream, I will go home, drop off the ice cream, and then go back to the first store and also pick up my prescription while I'm out there. I don't know if you can hear the Sunlux record or not. Hope I don't get nailed on that again. They really didn't take kindly to me talking over the Cloud Nothings record that was going last time. It was like completely accidental. No intention of that being in there, but what do you do? I mean, I can't remove it. It would remove the talking. Gonna get by these pedestrians here. Yeah, this is my right turn there. Again, it's actually, it's a relatively nice little city. But I'm in the old core of it, just like right outside of downtown. If I go, too far to the west, it gets nasty. If I go too far to the east, it gets nasty. You kind of want to be right smack in the middle of it. But it's got like old alleys that I try to avoid because I'm still a little skeptical, but they're probably perfectly safe. A couple of dogs out there. My battery's gonna go on me soon, so that's another reason to get home. I was hoping to get around the corner anyways. Okay, so store number 1 where I started walking from is a few blocks that way. I'm heading back this way. Literally a block. But as you can see, the Italian flags. Therefore, it stands to reason that this is a place to get Italian bread. Okay, so I'm gonna hope I can get enough of this on the way back, so I'm gonna turn this off. So, got my bread coming out of the bread store. It's called the Italia Bakery. Creative, huh? Let's see what we got. Viva Italia. I would normally go up that way, but I'm gonna take a walk up here today to get some shots in. I'll probably walk up behind there on the way back to the first store. Well, not probably, certainly will. Just I'm not sure what this is. I presume it's an old church. Certainly a substantial piece of real estate park right here. That's something you'll see in Canada. There's a bunch of these in Ottawa as well. They're just parked right in the middle of the city like this. Just relics. Everything else in this neighborhood has probably changed 100 times except that. That's actually a kind of a scientific truth that churches don't change. If you ask like historians or people doing like sort of like real-time, I don't want to call it archaeology, but like urban uncovering. Is it urban archaeology that they call it? They will look for the churches because they know that that's the that's the most likely place that you'll find old layers that are still intact. Everything else gets pillaged or burned. Or speaking of burned, there's been a lot of fires in Windsor since I moved down here. I think the simple answer is that there's simply a lot of drunks here. I don't mean to be an ass. It's a high unemployment rate. Not everybody's a composer. Not everybody has something to do with their time. They just want to get trashed, and there are a lot of fires here as a result of it. I have only barely sampled the dining opportunities here, but I have tried a few. So it is 5:30, which means I was out for a good 3 hours, but I'm actually not done yet. I need to go back to store number 1, and I need to go pick up my meds. I seem to have run out of batteries. I'm not sure where I ran out of batteries, that's the thing, so I just stopped. And I was only 5 minutes away. I'll get some shots of the Italian district some other time, although that was really the bulk of it. There'll be plenty of times when I'm walking out towards the Long and McQuaid, or when I'm walking to drop off my compost. For right now, I'm actually just going to head right back out. I just need to hit the bathroom and a few other things, so I'll be back in a sec. So the thing about these warm November days, absurdly warm November days, is that they don't last overnight. There's no heat retention in the ground, so sun is beginning to go down. It's only 5:30, bloody daylight savings. It's like hazy, it's weird. But the ground is cold, so it's more like, that fluke hot day in the early spring where it, 30 degrees at noon and it snows overnight. So, I can't be out too long. I'm going to need to get in. And, I can come out with a sweater on. It's not going to be that cold, but I can't be walking around in a t-shirt all night. I'm going to take a different walk up this way. I should probably actually get my prescription first, because I think... Well, wait. No, they're both closed at 8. It doesn't matter, but I may come back with a shopping cart, so yeah, I should get my prescription first. Regardless, I'll take the same walk. So, you can see what I mean, right? These are ancient houses, right? Alleyways up in the back. Whenever they transferred over to cars, they seem to have taken half of the streets and left the other half as, who knows, they might have been for horses originally, but they're just alleyways now. That is how old this area is. It's actually one of the oldest settled areas in Canada. Initially settled by, it was initially settled by native tribes, but always gotta point that out, even if it's obvious. But the French were here in 1600 or something, which is really early for a sustained settlement in Canada. So I'm taking a slight detour, but this is the way I would normally go if I was going to the grocery store, so I'll take that. It means I'll have to come back up a block, but it's no big deal. These houses obviously aren't that old, but if you take a walk through, you'll notice a lot of them are probably close to 100 years old anyways. The thing is that because the area is, it's an interesting question. You've got very old houses. In most places, very old houses are worth quite a bit, but it comes with the caveat that you expect there to be some kind of economy in the region. Here, because I mean the economy was entirely built around the automotive industry, and as is the case in Detroit, the automotive industry is bolted, and nobody that's not delusional thinks it's ever going to come back. So, see more of these alleys. So they have what could be, fairly pricey, like heritage homes, just sitting and rotting. Like I say, this particular little spot, it is close to the kind of downtown settled areas, so it's not falling apart nearly as badly, because there are job opportunities downtown, right? It's when you get out a little bit further that you start seeing things fall apart really, really terribly. I will avoid that unless I'm able to, well, eventually I'll get my bike fixed, and then I'll take a tour. Smells like barbecue. Lighter fluid back here. Well, that makes sense. You're not going to get another day like this, so have your barbecue. But that little spot the little spot that I live in, that I just kind of coming out of, is kind of a little micro, little, well, it's not even a slum, it's a slightly less kept area. Where I'm walking right here is into, well, if I walk one way, really if I walk in any direction, if just for some reason that's a little microcosm. One of these. Well, that one ends there. There's a lot of cats around here. Mostly strays. You get to know which ones they are. I tried approaching them a few times and they're all completely feral. They could be, 5-6 generations removed from any contact with humans. They just hiss at you and that's about it. Oh, what have we got here? Not much of use to me. Hey, I picked my TV up on the side of the road. I would pick up more than that if I could. Without a second thought. I guess the sun is setting, isn't it? Maybe I should get into a more open spot. Get a nice shot of it. This is back to the road, the cemetery on it, which I'm crossing again. So you can see, I'm walking in, I'm walking more in a, sorry, this record just scared the hell out of me. Owl sound. It's a guitar, but startled me there. Yeah, I'm walking in that way direction, right? A good distance that way and then back. But in terms of this way, it's not very far. I'm not going in a very big direction. Strange place to park your car. Looks like it's for sale. Cross this road here while I can. I'm always a little bit weirded out walking down here because I got into an encounter, a fiasco with a dog. I was never really able to figure out if it was like the guy's dog that lives around here that just got out, or if it was a wild dog or what. The thing is, I think I've seen it running around in other places, so there's probably a higher chance of me bumping into it here anyways, because it seems to have a relatively large range, but never did figure that out. And it was very early in the morning as well, but that's part of the reason I kind of avoid the alleys. Less that I'm concerned about people and more that I'm concerned about animals. But so yeah, I guess that goes back to the cougar fear, right? It was coming up here. It's just the way it got me, and luckily I had a shopping cart with me. And we may have to have a talk about shopping carts fairly soon. I wasn't able to take a shopping cart out of store number 2. That's the other reason. See, it ran up here and it got me, like it ran up through here, and yeah, the shopping carts at store number 2 were locked in. I'm not a fan of that, and that will be a part of the discussion that we have to have about shopping carts fairly shortly. I'm gonna wait until I actually have a shopping cart, but I mean, I probably wouldn't have gone home if I could I just got a shopping cart, walked up here. What do you do? It's a shot of the night there. I'm listening to Pinkish Black, which is the band I'm going to go see on Friday. Haven't decided yet whether this is going to be an all-nighter. Well, I mean, it's gonna be dependent on what time they're the opening band. If they play late, I'll stay for the headliner, which is a band called Zombie. If they're done early, I'll probably come home, and that's not something I've ever done. Every time I've gotten to Ferndale, I've always got stuck there overnight. So, you know, and when it comes down to it, you know, if I have to spend the night, I'd rather spend the night in Ferndale than, you know, at Rosa Parks or something. So, just about there. This is the another church. I'm telling you, you know, in 20 years, it might be all that's left of this place. So these churches are the only thing that seems to be stable here. They're everywhere. I'd rather cross on a red. You know, I want to look both ways where I'm going rather than rely on a signal to tell me what's safe and what isn't. You know, somebody's screaming out, some drunk idiot or something, or even if the lights are broken. You know, and when you cross on the don't walk, you know, chances are higher that there aren't any. I mean, they say that walking in a parking lot is the most dangerous thing. I think that walking through an intersection of parked cars is much more dangerous than trying to cross when there's no cars around for the same reason. So, Yeah, that's right. I wanted to go back to get the prescription first because I might come back with a shopping cart, and then we'll have to talk about shopping carts. So, we're gonna turn this off. There is back to, again, store number 1, but I'm taking the walk in reverse that I've taken a few times. Actually, I only have it on camera in the first one. If that really excites you, you can head back. Just one last thing though, there's the closest beer store. Hopefully it won't take more than a year or two for it to become a beer and marijuana store. That would be easy access. Anyways, I'm in to get my prescription, so this is off. So, I am coming out of store number 1. I did not get a shopping cart because they did not have any soy milk. If I had any soy milk, I would have gotten several cartons. I tend to do most of my shopping at the beginning of the month, so I was a little over last month, which was unusual, but there's a reason for it. So I bought a lot of. They had those election debates several times, and I kind of got into the habit of getting a couple of bags of chips and just sitting and watching. And at the end of the month, it kind of added up a little bit. I was buying them at the grocery store, so. It's nothing for me to really be that weirded out about. Really, it means I should spend a little less this month so it balances out. But I still got about $50 left, and there's not really much else I need to worry about except getting a nice little stock of soy milk and picking up, some fruit and vegetables a few times. That's really what it's down to this month because I'm just going to be eating spaghetti the whole month. But I do tend to do that at the beginning of the month, to get stuff like toilet paper and I bought 6 packages of cheese, which actually is a little bit more than I need for the month, and some other things like that. But so if I had picked up the soy milk, I would have needed the grocery cart to get it home. But I didn't. I have no idea how much. You're probably not getting anything but darkness here, but that's fine. I didn't. But we're gonna have a talk about shopping carts, anyways. I have no concern whatsoever hauling a shopping cart out of a store, unless it's locked like the one up there, which is unfortunate. But I understand why they do that. The reason I feel okay taking a shopping cart out of a store, you might think it's just some badass disregarding thing that, some, a criminal anarchist might do. That's not how I'd look at it at all. I would consider a shopping cart to be collective property. I know the law would consider it to be private property, but the law, it's just, you can change laws. It's an idea, right? So I think that it's a type of property that would fundamentally, inherently, fall under a community property license. So I don't have a problem with taking it back. But here's the part that I really wanted to talk to you about regarding shopping carts, is that also means that I feel a responsibility to bring it back. Because it is collectively used, or ought to be collectively used, and thought of as collectively used. I gotta turn this off just a sec. If they're gonna nail me on Cloud Nothings, they'll nail me on Screaming Females. It ought to be thought of as and treated as collectively owned property, which means that you take it, you use it for the period you need it, but then you put it back in the easily accessible place, or easily... It's getting a little cold, my mouth is locking up here. Easily accessible place. That's the part about anarchism, or being an anarchist, actually living like an anarchist, that might not be getting across to people. Like I say, people are going to think stealing a shopping cart, you badass, you rebel, you anarchist, you. It's meant to be used. So I will take a shopping cart if I need it. I'll bring my groceries home, I'll take them out, and then because I realize the responsibility that comes with the use of collective resources, I will get off my ass, I will take I guess it's about a 10-minute walk, and I will bring the damn thing back. And that's what needs to be done. It's that. The thing about the reason I like this is because it's a good analogy. It's not just about shopping carts. It's about responsibility and doing what I'm gonna let this car go. Doing what is required to ensure that there's a just outcome, which is the reason that anarchism supposedly cannot work, because we're all a bunch of selfish assholes due to our quote-unquote human nature. Maybe not everybody has the ability to score highly on aptitude tests. Maybe everybody does, and they're just not developed. Maybe I happen to develop out of introversion. I don't know the answer to any of these things. I think I can make some good guesses, which is just that if you try to convince people not to be assholes, then they'll be less assholes. Anyways, and it really is just a question of having a talk about it. Because I think that there's really a fundamental point to make there. If you can't bring your fucking shopping cart back, then we do need thugs walking around with guns. It might sound a little outlandish at first, but it's an absolutely reasonable deduction. It's the most basic thing you could possibly do as a respect of a communal resource, right? But if you'll take a walk around here, you will see shopping carts everywhere. There's actually somebody that works at the store. I've talked to him a few times. And he walks around and he picks them up. If I see him, I'll leave it for him. But it works in other ways too, right? If I'm walking down here and I think to myself, I can carry this, I don't need to bring it, but I get halfway there and I'm like, shit, my back is breaking. And there happens to be a shopping cart at the corner here. I'll grab the shopping cart, I'll take it and I'll use it until I get home, and then I'll bring it back where I found it. Because I don't know if somebody left it there for a reason. Somebody was using it. The idea of a communal property is that that's what you do. You use it when it's not in use, and you bring it back where you found it. I've also had situations where I'm actually bringing back a cart, and I notice that somebody is carrying something heavy, and I've offered. I said, would you like to use the cart? And they have. But I always make sure, I say, but please make sure you bring it back to the store, right? And it's not trivial. It is trivial. But it's the kind of thing you have to start with. We can't jump entirely to, non-hierarchical work organizations if we can't bring our fucking shopping carts back. But it's not just that. It's not just sort of a misanthropic reflection. It's a practical means forward. It's a good lesson. If you do it, if you convince other people to do it, then you get people thinking in the right mindset. It's a good way to understand, because people don't even understand what collective property means. They can't even we're so taught or so ingrained of this idea, this is mine, that the idea of sharing things is just, it's just outside of, it's not outside the realm of comprehension, but it's outside the realm of contemplation. For vast majorities of people. And it's sort of the reality of it. People do need to be taught about the idea of sharing things like you would teach a 4-year-old, because nobody taught them when they were 4 years old. Might be horrible, but that's the reality, right? So that's it's a simple way to start. It may be an admission of extreme regression over the last 100 years, but take things as they are, right? Empirical reasoning. What I wanted to do right now was to show you. I'm sorry, my headphone connector fell off. There we go. Just say so. Okay, yeah, I wanted to, walk through here with the shopping cart. It's dark, you couldn't see me anyways. Bring it home, explain this while I'm doing this, and then bring it back. And I will do this when I need it. And it will happen. Probably not this month, because when I go back tomorrow or the next day to get the soy milk, that's really all I'm going to be getting. And then it's just going to be, green peppers and bananas for the rest of the month. So, it's going to be a while, but it will happen. And we can continue this discussion about shopping carts then. So it's nearly 7, which meant I was on my feet today for well over 4 hours. That's a longer day for me. 2, I can shrug off nothing. 3, I start feeling it. 4, I think I'm maybe a little tired tomorrow. So I'm going to finish my meal from this afternoon that I didn't quite finish. I actually have several days worth of editing to cut, and maybe I should say something a little bit about that. What I noticed was that I wasn't sure where to do the cutoff point for the day. When you wake up at 6 o'clock at night, are you blogging for the day that you woke up at, or the next day? So I'm going to have to work that out. One of these days is going to be 2 days. It seems like it'll probably be this one, because I'm at the end of the day now, and when I wake up it'll be tomorrow. So I woke up, I think it was at 6 o'clock yesterday, so that's going to be those 2 days together. But I've got a lot of footage. I've got a lot of batteries to charge. Tomorrow is just going to be getting through that reinstall, which I didn't even start. And then Friday is the show. So I gotta have all my batteries charged by then and ready to go. I don't expect to add anything else for the night. And tomorrow will be a short day, excluding perhaps a little bit of a special spaghetti meal, which is actually a little bit expensive. It's not something that I'm going to do frequently. I'm also going to need to get some soy milk tomorrow, it appears. But it looks like it's just editing tonight and I'm crashing, so I'm out later.